Well, good morning, everybody. It's flipping cold, of course, when I need to do stuff. But the big old Ford blew a head gasket. And so that seems to be the project for the next couple weeks. Here's the real issue of working in the wintertime. Everything gets snow on it. You move it into the shop, and it rains on your head while you're underneath the vehicle and gets the floor wet. It's just really miserable. All right, a little bit of story time. As you can see, the reservoir's got a big old hole in it, and the motor's down one hole on compression. So basically, what was happening as I was driving back from Hermiston over there in Oregon where I work, and little soccer mom was giving me a little bit, so I decided I wasn't gonna have that, and laid on it, and she decided to lay on it too, and next thing you know, we're doing like 100 and something, and a bunch of steam appears out from underneath the truck. I still can't feel the misfire quite yet. I'm going, man, where's that all coming from? And so I start slowing down and pulling off on an exit, and then I felt it as it was idling. It was skipping a hole. I was like, oh no, I blew this engine up. Pulled over, opened the hood up, and there's freaking antifreeze blowing out of the coolant bottle, and turn it over on the starter, and it sounds like crap. So then I went through this magnificent journey of getting this big old piece of crap home here to Idaho, which is about 224 miles from where this thing broke down at. So I had the towing company tow me to my company yard. And then I put my dad's brown truck in the service, which was a terrible idea, by the way. It's got an old 350 small block TBI motor, and it's got a swapped in 4-speed. I mean, it's heavy enough to handle the weight I put on it, but this thing with the trailer and the brown truck all together weighed like 16,100 pounds, and it was a slow ride home. Oh my gosh, the hills pulled so slow. Like, I could do no more than maybe 20 mile an hour with the engine screaming in first gear. That's how bad it was. And then out on the flats, if you didn't have any wind, it would do maybe 55 wide open. So needless to say, the brown truck made it home. And with the truck, everything's safe and sound, thank goodness, because I've never laid into something that long and that hard for so long. But yeah, so today we're gonna be I know it's the head gasket, it's obvious, but the easiest way to work on these engines is you just need to literally just pull everything off the motor and get ready to yard the motor up out of the truck and work on it outside of the truck, because this thing's head studded. It's got quite a few things done to it, and when this engine makes about 540 horsepower and about 1,200-ish like foot-pounds of torque the last time I was on a wheel dyno. So I want to make sure that the bottom end is healthy in this thing and make sure that there's no wear or damage in the bottom end before I even attempt to put a head gasket in this thing, get the head surface elect. We'll get into that a little bit later, but first things first, need to start removing stuff off the top of the motor, like the turbocharger and charge pipes, the hoses, get the coolant, what's left of the coolant drained out of it. I got the oil draining out of it. There's nothing in the oil, so that's a good sign. Yeah, so we'll get to it. Well, we got a status update. We're moving right along. Taking apart the top side of the engine side to pull the motor is not the difficult part. We're just working on getting the turbo out. You gotta pull the cartridge out first before you can get to those trim bolts back there to get the housing off of the T4 mount. The thing I hate about S300 frame turbos is they do all these bolts. And man, it is a real pain in the butt to get, especially on the exhaust side. But it looks really well. No end play, just a little bit of radial, no touching, so she's still pretty healthy. You gotta get in here and work with this freaking thing, because I put the turbo on freakishly tight all the time. So these trim bolts are not exactly, I don't know, it may surprise me. I probably didn't put them on that. Oh yeah, they're on there. Or are they tighten up? taking a crack. Thank God it didn't ball the threads up and break the bolt off, because that would have made me happy. And it's hot. There. God. Oh. Look at that little guy. All right, we got an update. So I believe everything on the engine is disconnected from the chassis, other than I am working on pulling the transmission out right now, and I need to take the T4 mount off and the bed plate flywheel off the back of the motor. Then things like the hood needs to go up on the top of the roof. I need to remove the vacuum box and maybe a few other little things, and then I can hook the chain to this thing and lift it out, and we'll be ready to start tearing into the motor. So all the snow off the pickup has turned this thing into a frickin' moat down here. Makes it real fun to work on this truck. Have I told you how much I hate the winter? All right, so all we got left is the torque converter nuts and the cross member besides the jack, and I can zip the bell housing bolts out and pull the E4 out of the truck. And then we'll be really close to ready to pull in the engine out. Let's get on with the dungeon work here. And hopefully she just scoops right out of there. The motor is already... There we go. She's free. Usually this transmission always doesn't give me a whole lot of issues other than it's flipping heavy. Trying to get my little light butt to pull this thing back on the wheels is a little difficult at times. Look at that, like a glove. Like a flipping swamp under here. Tricky. There we go. Boy, howdy, you forget how big something is. I mean, granted, the brand spanking new Fords and 10 speeds and T cases are way bigger than this, but still amazing how big an E4 is when it's fully dressed. I'm gonna let you guys go through the comedy of watching me trying to get this flipping hood on the roof. My skinny butt. They weigh a fair amount. This last time it was no party. trick is getting your footing before you start this ordeal. It sucks just being one guy. Never having help. Whew. All right, we did better than we did last time. Maybe I should just revert to doing this right off the bat just because it's way easier to see with all the light in there now. About last time I did that, I hit that shop. Actually, you can see right there, that kink. Yeah, mass was a little bit lower. So you gotta snatch it up here on the concrete. It's a lot of money, and it's about 1,000-pound wrecking ball swinging around here, but it seemed controllable enough. Now that I got the engine set up, valve covers off, yarded the glow plugs out of it, and the passenger bank's got soot on all the tips. The driver's side, on the other hand, there's a tie between two of them. This one's got soot, this one's got soot. This one's clean, and this one's a dark black. So either one of them's not working, or the cleaner one's the burning one, or the washed off one. I don't know. I'm gonna have to put them on a battery and see if they both work. Okay, you got the alligator clip positive terminal on the end there, and then all I gotta do is touch the body to the negative, and it does work. Although it's pretty weak. Usually they get just red hot. Oh, there we go. So after the test, they both do glow. I'm going to put my money, it's this cylinder here. So this one here on the driver's side is going to be our culprit. It's the cleanest. Well, we blew that head gasket out bigger. I mean, it just killed everything. And then, you know, where's the ring at? I'll show you. She's a part of the head all crunched out, and then a part of it got into the exhaust valve. So, and then the other part is that little ring got it between the cylinder head and the piston. And gacked up the piston a little bit. So, that's what I'm dealing with. All right, fast forward to the afternoon, we got the engine stripped. So rear structure, front structure, turbo pedestal, whatever else was on it, but I stripped it down to basically a short block, rods, pistons, crank, camshaft, lifters. I cleaned everything off the table, everything underneath it, put it in the pickup, and the cylinder heads went down to the machine shop, other than the transmission's still here left on the jack. So I went through and put my dial indicator on the deck. And my thought was behind this was I would rotate it over onto the deck surface of the engine and zero it out. And then I'd rotate it back over to kind of in line with where the wrist pin of the piston would be to take, you know, a little bit of rock out of the cylinder wall. And I brought them all up to TDC with the crankshaft and a bar and just made sure that they were all even. They're all within 5/1000ths of an inch of each other, sometimes less. It just depended on how the tool was kind of sitting around on that thing, which is a good thing because it means the little bushing that's at the end of these connecting rods, these forged factory rods, is not crushed out of it. My reason for doing that is this engine's always had a slight gallop. Even when it came out of my 95 had a little bit of a gallop idle. The 97 had a completely clean idle. I put the 97 heads on this with all the 97 stuff to make the power, and it still galloped. So it's in the bottom end. I just wanted to make sure that was ruled out other than like maybe a pinched ring. I'll take it apart more when I go to take it to the machine shop, but everything that I did do, it just shows me that it's pretty fine. Now, the connecting rod bearings, they're not great, but they're not bad either. I mean, it looks kind of like exactly how a 240,000 mile engine should look that's making 540 horsepower and 1,200 foot-pounds of torque. Now, I'll show you what the reason why I'm really going through and rebuilding this engine. Once I get all these out. Here's the center main cap, which it's a typical thing. It is well known that if you modify one of these 7.3 diesel engines to make that kind of power, you run the risk of the main caps walking around after about 450 horsepower. And it does have it. See if I can get it. There we go. So these little points here, that's actual iron transferring off the block onto the cap or the cap onto the block from it vibrating on. And then this, from what I've been told, is actually the crankshaft hammering on the bearing, but that's also part of the main cap walking around and the crankshaft hammering around at the same time. So I'm gonna put a main girdle on this thing and put MLS steel head gaskets on it. And getting the engine rebuilt will allow the deck surfaces on both the head and the deck to be perfectly flat. I think the real reason why this thing popped a head gasket, it did take a year to do it. And I have not really been that nice to this engine. It's just one hole. See, like this head gasket looks really cherry. Even the other holes, other than, you know, when it pushed into that other one. But it's just that one hole. And this thing had head studs in it, mind you. I think there's a low spot either in the cylinder head or the deck of this engine. So that's another reason why I want to get this rebuilt. So when I do the girdle, the MLS head gaskets, and everything's nice and flat and good to go, I should never have to touch this engine again. I can just leave it in the truck, which is the whole reason for going through all of this. I mean, I had planned to work on old Peg Leg Penny there, but the Ford got through in my lap with the blown head gasket, trying to get that thing back from Oregon. So currently, I'm going to put together another stock 480E for Peg Leg Penny, because as you can see, money's going places. So basically, the last transmission that was in Peg Leg Penny, it made 800 to the tire with a torque converter that wasn't really happy. That's like a 9.5-inch converter. It's not really rated for what I'm doing. It was rated at right at 750 horsepower, and lo and behold, on the dyno, that's all it made. About 750 horsepower, except for that one time when we let it cool off for a while, and I just hit it just right after a jet change, and the transmission temperature was down, and the converter coupled a little more, and it made 799 uncorrected. So I'm completely maxed out on that converter. Whatever boost timing you threw at it, that's all it was going to give you. So I'm going to put together another stock transmission, but this time I'm going to put my money into a converter that's actually built to handle that kind of power. And for the meantime anyways, while I'm waiting on the machine shop and parts and money to come through for the 7.3 build. Because that's all I got. I mean, all I gotta do is make the money and buy the parts and send stuff to the machine shop, and it's a waiting game at this point. So we're gonna end it off here, and when I actually start going back together with this engine and we start putting it in the truck, we'll come back and we'll film part 2. Anyways, thank you guys for watching, and we'll see y'all later.